Hello, and welcome to Life Rhythms, Tarot, Food, and Spirit. And I'm here today to offer a VR, very kind of past due VR to Brian Cormack Carr's Tarot Tools Trio. Tarot Tools Trio. I know the giveaway and all that's already been done, but I've been wanting to do this VR for a while, so perhaps there'll still be some interest in watching it. And so the questions are around a trio of tools in a couple of categories that I would want with me if they were the only things I could choose. So this turned out to be a lot more difficult than I really thought it was going to be. Not that I thought it was going to be easy, but honing it down, and especially the last question, I actually was going around thinking that it was something different, that it was three tools in addition to the books and the decks, and that it wasn't, I didn't have it in my mind that it was three spreads. And that was a little more difficult for me because I don't use formal spreads that often, but we'll get there in a moment. So the three decks that I chose, and they turned out to be ones that I would not have thought, but in this moment that I was preparing, I decided that one of the decks would be the lovely Triomphe de la Luna. And this deck is really brand new to me, and in part inspired by my commitment this year to work more with pip decks, and I am actually currently doing the March of the Pips challenge on Instagram, and am enjoying that thoroughly. So I have a couple of decks that I'm using for that, but this one, if I had to choose one, and I wanted to choose one in this category, and I thought, well, it is just cheeky and a little bit dirty and dark and classic enough. So so this would definitely be one of them. And then also because I wasn't even aware that it was going to come with three additional cards, one extra judgment, one extra devil, and an alternate star, as well as 10 oracle cards. So it's just like this little delicious, little naughty. I don't know why. The deck feels a little naughty to me, and it's also working in that tradition that I'm wanting to work more with. So that deck would be coming along with me. And then also this deck I knew would be the Mother Piece deck, my first deck, the first deck that I ever worked with. And it's just one of those decks that I primarily work with women, and this is just a deck that is such a beautiful opening, especially for women who aren't necessarily centered in themselves in this way, in this Gaia-centered, feminine, rooting into their femininity, which is a lot of the work that I do. And so this is just a beautiful deck for that, and I have always found it to be very accessible, even for people that are perhaps not at all connected to themselves in that way. This deck seems to have the ability to bring that forward, or call that forward, or open one into that. So the mother piece would definitely travel along with me. And then the third deck that I chose, I will admit that this is a bit of a cheat, not for anything about the deck, but because of what I'll say at the end, but it is the Margaret Peterson Tarot. And this would be more maybe personal, or for people that I've been reading with for a longer time, that are more visually or interested in kind of not being influenced by direct telling of story imagery, but the movement and the colors and the patterns, so more abstractly suggestive cards, deck. And it's just a stunning deck all the way around. And the little cheat about it was that Brian asked that in the book part that we don't refer to the books, little white books. I'm not including this in that, but it's kind of like I'm slipping this in because this book is like poetry in motion. And I think in motion really works because it's so somatically anchored. Her description of the cards and their the meanings that they offer to us. So those would be my 3 decks. I have on the side, of course, over here, the Weaver's Oracle. That would come with me, but of course for this, I mentioned it, so I already cheated. I'm not like into the contest. So the Weaver's Oracle, for all the reasons that any of us have the Weaver's Oracle and know. And if you don't know the Weaver's Oracle, it's just a huge gift of if you really want to travel down tunnel into your the feminine journey, that this is quite the powerful deck for that. So I'll move along. 3 books. This was again, this was a bit of a challenge, primarily because, as I've mentioned in a few previous videos, I don't actually have a lot of tarot books that I've connected with in a super powerful way until I received the Alejandro Jodorowsky's The Way of the Tarot. So this book opens up many doorways, not only to the interpreting the imagery and down to the colors and the way the flowers are opening on the Marseille decks, but the psychological components that he offers, and some of which to be really read through your own mind, but there's a beauty and a poetry, and he elicits a lot of wide thinking. If you get past certain little elements, there's I am noticing that there's a lot of reference to, for me, a bit of the Catholic or a Christianity-based type imagery thinking, which, having seen some of his movies, I think that it's that he takes that in stride. But if one, if one is reading the book, to kind of keep that in mind and maybe not get caught in that I think he's thinking wider than that, even though he uses that some of that some of those references in here. Mary, the mother, the birth, the virgin birth, things of this nature. But okay, I don't need to go on and on about that. The other book, for its poetic simplicity, is Way of the Current by Stuart S. Warren. And this is simply a wonderful book that I feel like sometimes if I've thrown a card and for whatever reason I might be stumped about it in relation to maybe what my question was or what how it's relating to the other cards around it, just the simplicity of it, kind of the simplicity and the depth it gets to through that simplicity is very, very moving. And he actually also offers a few spreads in here in the beginning as well. I'm not at this moment in time much of a spread girl, but yeah, I think right in the beginning here. Different Tree of Life spreads and things of that nature. And I haven't delved into that aspect of it. The third book is not tarot related at all. It is a book that has walked with me for many, many years. It is called Bone, Breath, and Gesture, Practices of Embodiment, and it's edited by Don Hanlon Johnson. And it bringing the spiritual, embodying the spiritual, connecting through spirit, through the body, which is the vehicle that we've been given to walk this planet with, is really, has been my work always. So this is basically a book of interviews that have been done with really pioneers of movement therapy through the late 19th century up through, this is about through the maybe it goes up through the 70s, through some body workers in the 70s. So it's interviews with body workers. And the beauty of this is that so many body work methods and practices, everything from Rolfing to Pilates to Feldenkrais and on. All of the people who have developed these practices have such a spiritual component. Like they know that is where the healing is that unlocking in the person, not necessarily a tight neck through the scalenes or an upper back through your rhomboids or your rotators in your hips if your hips are tight or too loose. That it wasn't about that it's about that when we open those channels, then we open ourselves to bigger and wider experiences of life. And so this is just a huge part of the component of how I work and how I work with the cards with people. So this book would definitely come with me. So on to the spreads. As I said earlier, I don't work with spreads that much. I'm more of an open reader with the general foundation of what is the query, what is the canopy under which someone might have come to me or myself, and then a 3-card spread that might be Soma, Psyche, Spirit. So that would be a very basic spread, and then I'll offer that there are two spreads that I've developed that I'll put links to. I've done videos on both of them. Some of you are familiar with them. One of them is the Ancestral Connection spread, and I'll put links to the videos if you're at all interested. That's a 7-card spread with, in question, I think 4 and 5, the opportunity to look at maternal and paternal sides. So it's basically asking who's walking with me right now on my journey at this moment, how I might best connect with you, what medicine we have for each other, and what medicine that you may help me open up to, that I am here to share into the world or offer into the world at this moment. So it's kind of the loose framework of that, the questions of that spread. And then a sacred nourishment spread, in where I offer that nourishment is, yes, about food, but it's about much more than food. And so the questions are around how are you being nourished right now? How are you accepting nourishment, or are you maybe in some way are you not accepting nourishment? That's through food, through who you're spending your time with, what things you're taking in through media, social media, news media, things of that nature. What might have been creating this pattern right now, if it's not a pattern that you want to continue along with. And then what resources might you have to call on or to cultivate to move through that, and what could some potential outcomes be. So again, I'll put the links to the videos, the original videos that I did on both of those spreads. So those would be the 3 spreads that I work with. And then the tools part. So originally I thought it was 3 tools. So I had gathered a bunch of things, and then I reviewed what it was, and I was like, oh no, it's 3 spreads. So definitively it would be, and if any of you looked at my Instagram account, you often see my companion here. Snake medicine is one of my main medicines in this life. Born in the year of the snake. The snake is just my medicine, and this was a gift from a family member of mine that he brought it back from an artisan that he came to know on a trip in Oaxaca, when he was in Oaxaca, in Mexico. So this being is with me at all times. So this would be the non-negotiable. But also I really have to include I have to say I would include this wand that I actually recently came to me from Kasha over at Wands of Transformation. And I have a bigger, gorgeous wand of hers, but it's too much to travel with. It's more of a home anchoring piece. And this, from the moment it arrived, it is just pure magic, power, it's direct, it's solid, it's, yeah, so I kind of can't choose between these 2. Well, this one is a definite, so I guess if I had to, I'd put that away, but I do it so very reluctantly. So those are my offerings, and thank you so much, Brian, for putting this out there. It is always good to take time to kind of clarify and see where you're at in relationship, as many of us have many decks and tools and things that we refer to, and to also give thought as to why we are reaching for those things at this moment in time. So, as always, I am inspired by this community, and am so inspired to always sit and hear what everyone is doing or delving into, and I am grateful that you take time to hold space and listen to what I have to offer as well. So until the next time, be well.